Cerebral palsy is really a catch-all term for a neurologic injury that may have been caused at birth. It doesn't necessarily need to be caused at birth. Cerebral palsy could result in, as a result of respiratory distress in a child in their pediatric years as well. I represented a young girl who suffered an anoxic brain injury or lack of oxygen to the brain as a result of suffering from adult respiratory distress syndrome at the age of 3 that has catastrophic consequences on her development and functioning now an adult. In that case, and in many cases of cerebral palsy, it's difficult to identify the precise moment when the neurologic injury or insult occurs that causes, again, the generic cerebral palsy. It's probably, if you talk to most pediatric neurologists, they will shy away from use of the term cerebral palsy because it encompasses so many different things. But generally speaking, and I understand cerebral palsy to mean, in the cases that I've handled, of a neurologic insult that results in low muscle tone, effect on cognition, significant deterioration and development of fine motor skills, speech difficulty with expressive language, and all of these conditions have a significant catastrophic impact upon a child's development and ultimately their ability to care for themselves as they move into adulthood. In the case I was just referencing, that child, her mom, did not come to me until she was at an older age. I believe she was 13 or 14 years old at the time that she came to me to represent them, which presented not only challenges dealing with evidence, but also trying to retrace the steps that occurred when she was 3 years old, involving a hospital admission that ultimately deprived her brain of oxygen and caused the cerebral palsy. But in those cases, it's not, in cases of cerebral palsy or any anoxic brain injury or hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, because these types of conditions, the significant impact that the neurologic injury has on so many facets of the child's development and well-being, oftentimes the damages are not just in the injuries themselves, but in a life care plan to fund the medical care and resources necessary for a child that suffers from a cerebral palsy. And that's really a very challenging aspect of handling these cases because we're not just looking at the here and now of what a child may need and how we could assist in their development, but more importantly, what they're going to need in the future when mom or dad or their other caregivers are no longer available to provide that to them.